The return. Dust trailed behind the horse like smoke from a dying fire. The sun leaned low, hot and unblinking, painting the rider's shoulders in red-gold light. Leather creaked, reins pulled, hooves struck dry earth in a steady rhythm. Every sound carried sharp in the empty air. A crow screamed from a fence post ahead. The rider's head lifted. His hat brimmed shadowed eyes that had seen too much. His horse slowed, as if it too felt something strange in the silence. The homestead rose out of the prairie, fence lines sagging, shingles curled, a porch leaning tired as an old man's back. For a moment, the soldier thought it a ghost house, abandoned like so many he'd passed since war's end. Then a sound cut the stillness. The front door banged open. A child burst onto the porch. Bare feet slapped against the boards. A girl, small, hair loose in the wind, her dress torn at the hem. She looked once, hard, and then she cried out with a voice that pierced him to the marrow. "Daddy!" The horse jolted beneath him. The soldier froze. His hand twitched to the reins. The other gripped the rifle slung at his back. That word, too sharp, too sudden, hung in the air like a gunshot. The girl leapt from the porch, skirts flying, feet pounding dirt as she ran straight toward him. "Daddy, you came back." His mouth opened, no words. His chest locked tight. He had no children. She threw herself at his leg before he could dismount, arms clinging, cheek pressed against worn cavalry boots. He could smell the dust of her hair, the warmth of her breath. His hand, stiff, lowered and brushed her shoulder. The door eased open again. A woman stepped out. She carried herself as though each step cost something. Her dress was patched neat, her hair pulled back, her eyes tired and sharp. She paused, one hand on the rail, watching the child and the soldier. The soldier slid from his saddle, boots hitting dirt. The girl clung tighter. He looked at the woman, but her eyes gave no answer, only questions. The wind moved across the yard, tugging at shirts on a line that hadn't been washed in weeks. The soldier finally spoke, voice rough as gravel. "I think there's been a mistake." The girl shook her head against him. "No, you came back. I knew you would." The woman's voice was low, steady. "Her name is Annie." She walked closer, slow, as though not to startle either of them. "My husband," she stopped. Her throat tightened. Then, "My husband's gone. She still waits for him." The soldier's jaw worked. He looked down at the child. Big eyes, wet with hope, stared up at him. His heart, long iron cast, gave one sharp crack. The woman's gaze did not waver. She believes every soldier who rides past might be him. "When she saw you," she let the words fade into the hot wind. The girl's arms wrapped tighter around him. "You came back, Daddy. You should have said no. You should have pulled free, set the truth down hard before the sun dropped." But his throat closed on the word. The war had taken too much from him already. His friends, his peace, nearly his soul. And here was a child, calling him something he had never been. The woman studied him, her lips pressed thin. She saw the silence, and she knew he would not correct the girl. The crow screamed again, as if to mark the moment. The soldier finally bent, lifting the child into his arms. She clung to his neck, light as a feather, heavy as memory. His rifle banged against his back as he carried her toward the porch. The woman stepped aside, but not far. She watched him cross the threshold, eyes measuring, testing, wary as a rattler. Inside, the air was cooler, though the walls carried cracks and the floor sagged beneath boots. A kettle sat on the stove, cold. A Bible rested on a shelf, pages curled, dust thick. The girl would not let go of his neck. Her voice was soft now, half dream, half prayer. "You're home." The soldier lowered his hat, shadows deepening his scarred face. His lips pressed tight, but still no denial came. The woman's voice was careful, each word chosen. "You can stay the night, if you wish." He nodded once. His boots echoed hollow across the wood as he carried the girl to a chair and set her down. She would not release his sleeve. The silence between the three of them stretched long. Outside, the prairie wind carried the scent of dust and rain not yet fallen. The crow's cry faded into distance. The sun sank lower, pulling shadows long across the broken fence. And there, in that tired homestead, With a widow's wary eyes on him and a child's arms clutching tight, the soldier stood as if he had walked into a life not his own. Whispers in the dust. The hammer struck wood, sharp in the still air. Elias drove the post down, shoulders straining, sweat cutting through the dust on his face. The fence line wavered ahead of him like a scar across the prairie. Behind him, boards creaked as Clara hauled another length of timber, her breath quick, steady, uncomplaining. From the porch came a voice. "You're doing it wrong, Daddy." Elias glanced back. Annie stood barefoot in the dirt, arms folded, chin lifted bold as any foreman. Her eyes sparkled when he smiled, though the smile barely reached his eyes. Another strike, another post buried deep. The earth groaned as if unwilling to hold fast. Hoofbeats cut the air. Elias froze, mallet raised. Clara's head lifted sharp, her face paling. Annie ran to the fence, her small hands clutching the rails. Dust clouded on the road beyond the ridge. Two riders pushing hard, spurs flashing. The hammer slid slow from Elias's hand. His rifle leaned against the fence, never far. The riders came close enough to see their faces. One spat into the wind. The other grinned wide with yellow teeth. Their coats hung ragged, pistols easy on their hips. "Well, look here," the grinner called. "Thought this place was empty." Elias said nothing. His hand rested on the rifle's stock. Clara stepped forward, voice steady though her fingers twisted in her apron. "We've nothing here for you." The one who spat laughed low. "Ain't that the truth? Your man gone and buried, and still you standing proud." His eyes shifted to Elias. "But you, I know that face." Elias's jaw tightened. The man leaned in the saddle, squinting. "McCord, Union soldier. Shiloh, wasn't it? Folks say you walked out of hell itself." The other chuckled. "If that's so, he'll make Tanner real happy to hear." Annie's voice rang out, high and fierce. "Leave my daddy be." The rider's laughter cracked like whips. "Daddy," the grinner mocked. "Hear that, McCord? You got yourself a family now." Elias stepped forward, shoulders square. "You best ride on." The man's smile faltered just a shade, then curled cruel again. "We'll be back. Tanner don't like refusals." Hooves pounded as they wheeled and rode off, dust boiling in their wake. The silence after was heavy. Clara turned to Elias, her eyes sharp with fear and something harder beneath. "They'll come again." Elias lifted the rifle from the fence, his hand steady though his chest thundered. "Then I'll be ready." The saloon's piano was missing half its keys, but a tune limped out anyway, jangling through cigar smoke and spilled whiskey. Laughter rolled thick, broken by the crack of billiard balls. Elias stepped inside, boots dragging dust across warped planks. Heads turned. Whispers started low, sliding from table to table. "That's McCord. Thought he was dead. Shiloh, they say. Bayonet fighter." He kept walking, each step heavy, eyes forward. He reached the bar, laid down coin. "Flour. Coffee. Salt." The barkeep nodded, but his eyes darted toward the back corner where four men lounged, boots propped, pistols gleaming. Luke Tanner rose slow from his chair, broad-shouldered, beard trimmed neat, eyes like cold steel. His smile was thin as a knife. "Well, well," the famous soldier. Elias didn't answer. Tanner circled closer, boots clicking. "You were Union, weren't you? Killed men like they were cattle. Men like me." Elias's hand tightened on the counter. Tanner leaned close, voice low. "You're on my land now. You breathe 'cause I allow it. That widow, she pays or she don't live long. And if you stand in my way," he tapped the hilt of his pistol, "you'll join the rest." The saloon stilled, every eye on them. Elias turned, slow, his scarred face half shadow. His words were gravel. "I buried enough men. Don't force me to bury more." Tanner's smile thinned to nothing. He stepped back, spreading his hands as if in mercy. "Then pray you keep that girl inside at night. Wouldn't want her to see what happens when men say no." Laughter broke out from Tanner's men as they followed him out the swinging doors. The piano did not start again. That night the wind rattled the windows. Elias lay on the cot in the corner, sweat dampening his shirt. His eyes snapped open at every creak of the house, every scrape of branch against glass. Then hoofbeats. Slow, circling, fading, then returning. He sat up, rifle already in hand. Through the cracked shutter, lantern light flickered on the ridge, riders moving like ghosts. Annie stirred in her sleep, murmuring words he could not catch. Clara sat at the table, candle burning low, her hands clenched white around a worn Bible. Her eyes lifted to him. "They're testing you." He did not answer. His breath came hard, the old taste of powder and blood rising in his throat. The hoofbeats faded again, leaving only the moan of the prairie wind. At dawn, Elias walked the fence line. The horizon stretched endless, red sun climbing, coyotes yipping far off. The land smelled of dust, of iron, of storm clouds brewing unseen. Annie skipped beside him, her hand catching his. "You scare 'em off, Daddy. They won't come back." His grip tightened. He looked down at her bright eyes, and for the first time in years, he wished to believe in something that wasn't war. But behind the child's voice, he still heard Tanner's promise, cold as the grave. Blood on the horizon. The dogs barked first. Elias set his hand on the doorframe, rifle already leaning close. Outside, the prairie rolled gold in late sun, wind pulling long shadows across the grass. Hoofbeats came slow and heavy, like thunder walking on four legs. Annie pressed to the window, breath fogging the glass. "They're back." Clara pulled her away, voice sharp but low. "Stay behind me." Dust lifted on the ridge, a red haze against the dying light. 5 riders came, moving loose, pistols swinging, eyes hidden under broad hats. At their head rode Luke Tanner, upright in the saddle, his coat flapping like a black banner. They stopped 10 paces from a porch. Silence stretched, broken only by the restless snort of horses. Tanner called, voice carrying clean through the dusk. "Evenin', widow. Evenin', soldier." Elias stepped forward. The boards of the porch groaned under his boots. His rifle hung at his side, steady in one hand. "You've had your say," Elias said. "This land won't bend to you." Tanner smiled thin, not friendly. "You think we're taught you how to stare men down. But war's over, McCord. Ain't no flags out here. Just me and what I take." His men laughed low. One spat into the dirt. Another thumbed his revolver, eyes fixed on the porch. Annie's small fingers clutched Elias's coat. Her whisper was hot against his sleeve. "Don't let them take Mama." His throat worked, but no words came. The riders wheeled slow, Tanner tipping his hat with mock grace. "Tomorrow, soldier, when the sun climbs high, we'll come to collect. You can pay in coin or blood." They turned and rode off, their laughter carrying long into the dark. The night was restless. The lantern burned low, shadows crawling the walls. Elias sat at the table, rifle across his knees. Every creak of timber, every gust of wind, dragged his mind backward, into smoke, into fire, into screams. He saw fields trampled into mud, men falling with their eyes wide open. He felt the bayonet in his hand again, slick with blood, the roar of cannon deafening, the world drowning in powder. His breath rasped. His knuckles whitened around the rifle stock. Clara's voice cut through the memory. "You don't owe us this." Elias lifted his head. Her face was pale in the lantern light, her eyes shadowed with fear. "You can ride away tonight. No one would blame you." His jaw clenched. "And leave you to them." Her lips trembled, but her voice held firm. "You've seen enough war. Don't bring another to my door." Elias looked down at the rifle. His reflection stared back from the steel, scarred, hollow, unrelenting. "I didn't choose this war," he said softly. "It found me." Morning came red. The town stirred uneasy. Doors cracked, curtains twitched, whispers ran quick as snakes through the dust. "He's standing against Tanner. They say he killed a dozen with a blade, back east. He won't last an hour." At the saloon, men gathered silent. The piano stood quiet, keys untouched. Even the sheriff kept to his office, bottle heavy in his hand. Only the old-timer spoke, his voice carrying through the hush. "I've seen eyes like his before. Soldiers' eyes. If he fights, there'll be graves by sundown." Elias walked the yard, step by step, setting posts upright, checking the lines of fence like a man taking measure of his own grave. His hands were steady, his face carved in stone. Annie trailed him close, clutching a rag doll, her voice quick and earnest. "You'll stop them, Daddy. I know you will." He knelt, touched her cheek with a rough hand. The words stuck in his throat, but his gaze told her what his mouth could not. Clara watched from the porch, arms crossed tight, every line of her face torn between fear and a hope she dared not speak. By noon, the horizon darkened with dust. Tanner's riders came again, more this time. 8, maybe 10, their guns glinting in the merciless light. The ground shook beneath their approach. Elias stood at the gate, rifle resting in his hands. He did not move when they drew near. His shadow stretched long across the dirt, the sun burning hot on his back. Tanner reined in, teeth flashing in a grin sharp as barbed wire. "Last chance, soldier. Walk away." Elias raised the rifle to his shoulder. The barrel gleamed. The laughter died from Tanner's men. Silence wrapped the yard tight as a noose. Clara pulled Annie close, whispering a prayer against the child's hair. The riders shifted in their saddles, hands hovering near their guns. The air itself seemed to hold its breath. Elias spoke, voice steady as iron. "You'll take nothing here." The wind stirred, carrying the smell of dust, of sweat, of coming blood. And the prairie waited. The showdown. The first shot cracked the silence. Splinters burst from the fence post by Elias's head. Annie screamed, Clara dragged her down, and the yard filled with gun smoke. Elias stepped forward, rifle braced against his shoulder. The report thundered, and one rider tumbled from his saddle, dust swallowing him whole. "Kill him!" Tanner's voice tore across the yard. The gang spread wide, horses kicking up a storm. Bullets ripped through boards, glass shattered, chickens squawked wild in the coop. Elias moved like a machine, steady, deliberate, firing, reloading, firing again. Each shot found a mark. Each body fell hard. A rider charged straight at him, pistol blazing. Elias dropped to one knee, fired once, and the man pitched sideways, boot caught in the stirrup, horse dragging him into the dust. Smoke stung his eyes. His ears rang with the screams of dying men. The war surged back, cannon fire, bayonets flashing, brothers in arms torn apart. His hands moved as they had on battlefields past, calm in chaos, precise in death. Tanner bellowed orders, his pistol barking. "Surround him." 2 men broke toward the house. Clara snatched Elias's revolver from the porch rail, hands shaking, and fired wild. One man reeled back, cursing, the other ducked behind the well. Elias swung his rifle, clubbed it across the skull of a rider who charged too close, then drove his bayonet home with a brutal thrust. Blood spattered hot across his sleeve. He ripped the steel free, breath ragged. The yard became a graveyard of dust and bodies. Horses screamed, guns roared, the air thick with powder. And then Tanner rode through it all, straight toward Elias. The outlaw leapt from the saddle, pistol in hand, and slammed into him. They hit the dirt hard, rolling, fists flying, the pistol clattering away. Elias's bayonet skittered across the ground. Tanner's fist cracked against Elias's jaw. Stars burst in his vision. The taste of blood filled his mouth. Tanner snarled, teeth bared. "You ain't no hero, just another killer wearing a uniform." Elias heaved, rolled, drove his elbow into Tanner's ribs. The outlaw grunted, spat blood, and snatched a knife from his boot. The blade flashed. Elias caught Tanner's wrist, muscles screaming, the edge pressing close. Shouts rang distant, gunfire fading. All that remained was the struggle in the dirt. Tanner's eyes burned with hate, the knife inching down. Annie's voice broke through the roar. "Daddy!" The word hit Elias like a bugle call. His strength surged. With a guttural cry, he twisted Tanner's wrist until the knife dropped, then drove his fist hard into Tanner's face. The outlaw reeled. Elias lunged, hand finding the bayonet in the dirt. In one motion, he rose and drove the steel clean through Tanner's chest. The outlaw gasped, eyes wide, then sagged heavy in Elias's arms. Blood soaked the dust beneath him. Elias pulled free, staggering to his feet. Silence fell. Smoke drifted, thin and ghost-like. The gang lay scattered, broken across the yard. The only sound was the wind sighing through the ruined fence. Clara stepped forward, revolver hanging loose in her hand. Her eyes searched Elias's face, seeing the soldier laid bare. Annie ran to him, arms tight around his waist, cheek pressed to his blood-streaked coat. "You won, Daddy. You kept us safe." Elias looked down at her, chest rising hard. His lips parted, but no words came. Only a single tear carved its way down the dust on his cheek. The rifle slipped from his hand, landing heavy in the dirt. He gathered the child close, burying his face in her hair. Clara stood silent, watching the man she did not ask for yet could no longer deny. The man who had carried war back to her porch, and in the same breath, had saved her world. They say the prairie was never the same after that day. Some tell it as the tale of a soldier who came home only to find another battlefield waiting. Others whisper that Elias McCord's ghost still walks the ridges at sundown, rifle on his shoulder, guarding the weak, restless as the wind. And there are those who swear, on quiet nights when the coyotes call, you can still hear a little girl's voice drifting across the grass, soft and certain. "Daddy,